Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. It's Jamar from Vegas Sense, and in this video I'm doing a side-by-side comparison between Barakkat Ambre Eve from Fragrance World, and we're going to be comparing this to MFK's Grand Soir. Alright, so if you're interested to know exactly how close this cheapie comes to the original fragrance, then definitely stick around throughout the whole video. And also, to anyone brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. Also, to anyone watching, leave a like and a comment on the video. And to everyone, if you shop at either Bandit Fragrance, Oud Store, or TripleTraders.com, you can also use my discount code VegasSense10, and that'll give you 10% off of your order. All right. So just to get straight into this video, if you're wanting to know if this fragrance is one that you should pick up, over Grand Soir, if you don't necessarily have the $240 that Grand Soir costs, then I'm going to just start the video off by saying absolutely you should. This is another solid fragrance within that Barakkat fragrance line from Fragrance World. Obviously, I've done the video on Barakkat Aqua Crystal. I've done the Barakkat Aqua Stellar. And then I think that this is the third fragrance that I've done, which is the Barakkat Ambre Eve. And I mean, each one of those fragrances, I would say, has come at least about 90 to 95% close to the original fragrance. And this, in my opinion, is, it's the same thing. The quality that you get with this, the smoothness that you get with this fragrance, for the less than $25 that I picked this up for on FragranceShop.com is absolutely amazing. I would say when you first spray the two fragrances on, you can sense, a slight sort of complexity difference. So I would say that the way that the amber comes across in the MFK Grand Soir, it does smell better blended than what the MFK, or I'm sorry, the Fragrance World does. Also, the Barakkat Ambre Eve, it doesn't hold on to that sparkly sort of amber as long as what the Grand Soir does. So the Grand Soir, it starts off with like this sort of fizzy, sparkly, aromatic sort of amber, and then it starts to transition into this sort of sweet, resinous, sort of vanillic sort of scent. I would say that with the Ambre Eve, it starts doing that, like, I would say not even like a minute into like the opening. It starts to change almost immediately. So that, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's a bad thing, because I mean, for the most part, that sort of resinous, sweet, sort of thickness that you get from, Grand Soir, that's for the most part, the longest part of the fragrance, I would say, for the most part. So it goes right into that right away. But if you're somebody that likes that sort of, fizzy, aromatic sort of amber before it gets to that point, you're only going to experience that for, like I said, a minute or less or so before it starts to, really sort of change. Now, in terms of this Fragrance World Ambre Eve, this actually, in my opinion, it performs a little bit better than, what the MFK does. So this has a slightly more denser, thicker sort of feel to it. The MFK, like I said, it is better blended, but it has more of a slightly sort of softer and aromatic sort of feel to it. All right. So I think it just really kind of depends on, your personal preference in terms of, whether or not you want a more sort of thicker, stronger version of MFK. Then I would say you're going to like the Ambre Eve. But if you don't necessarily want that from this particular scent profile, then, maybe this might be a little bit, too much for you. But in terms of what I'm getting, like I said, this comes off as being a little bit more sort of thicker and denser on my skin. It projects slightly more than I would say the MFK does. You know, just because it has that extra sort of, you know, denseness to it. But I would say in terms of like the overall smell, you know, especially once you get into like that mid and dry down, I would say that, you know, this is at least about 90 to 95% close to the MFK. And, you know, again, it's really not that much of like a quality difference where like this one smells a lot more cheap than what the MFK does. That's really not the case. You know, like I said, it's just the quality difference, I would say, would be the difference of how this one sort of behaves. Like I said, especially with that sort of opening where, you know, this one starts to kind of change immediately. But, you know, I mean, again, if that's not necessarily something that you care about and you do, you know, I guess if the favorite part of the scent profile is like the mid to dry down when it comes to this fragrance, then you're going to love the Barakkat Ambre Eve. You absolutely will. You know, I get at least about 8+ hours out of this fragrance. So, I mean, it's a really solid performer in terms of the longevity. And like I said, the projection is, I would say, slightly more than what you get with the MFK. So Grand Soir, it was a fragrance that, you know, for a little bit, I did plan to, you know, sort of pick up a full bottle of that fragrance. Because I mean, I had smelled the fragrance, you know, years ago one time. And I mean, from what I remembered, I liked it. I just really didn't remember exactly how close it came to this fragrance. And after smelling these two, you know, side by side and wearing them side by side, I can say that, you know, if you're somebody that, you know, has the money to, you know, spend on, you know, the original fragrance, then fine, go out and buy it. You know, maybe even pick this up as sort of like a, you know, a backup, or, you know, a fragrance that you can maybe wear more often and save the original. But if you're just an average person that doesn't have, you know, the $240 to go and spend on the MFK, then I would say you're not missing really anything in terms of the, you know, experience of the fragrance by picking up the Barakkat Ambre Eve. All right. So overall, man, if I'm gonna, you know, rate this on a scale from 1 to 10 in terms of, you know, how well I think this is of a clone of MFK Grand Soir, I'm gonna have to give this one a solid 9 out of 10. This is a solid clone. Like I said, all of the Barakkat fragrances that I've smelled so far from that line have been really good. So, I mean, I plan to pick up, you know, at least a couple more of those fragrances, you know, that I've seen. So definitely let me know in the comments if you would like to see me pick up some of those other Barakkat fragrances and do kind of side-by-side comparisons with them. I'd be happy to go ahead and do that. And let me know also if you smell the Ambre Eve by, you know, Fragrance World. Also, have you smelled the MFK's Grand Soir, and how do you agree with my assessment of these two fragrances? Do you think that this is about 90 or so % close to the MFK? Or, you know, do you pick up on some differences that maybe I didn't in this video? All right. So let me know in the comments below. And once again, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And once again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see you on the next video.